Hello, Diocese of East Anglia. I am so excited to be with you virtually. And I know exactly what you're wondering. Who is this guy? He kind of looks like Jesus with a man bun. My name is Jacob DeRusha, and if you can't tell by my accent, I am originally from the United States, in a state called New Mexico, and I am currently quarantined in the great state of Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix, state of Arizona. But I am so excited to be with you, particularly because I actually did a study abroad in London, and I had the opportunity to travel around the UK when I was there to like Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool, and a bunch of states around the coast and things like that. So it's good to be back with you. Tonight our theme is focusing on mercy and especially forgiveness, when we fall short and maybe when we sin. So I want to tell you a story about one time when I needed some mercy. I remember we were about like 10, my siblings and I or so, something like that, 5 years to 10 years old, and it was spaghetti night. So we were eating, and for whatever reason, I don't know why, my parents decided that they were gonna leave the room. So we were left to our own devices. We were eating spaghetti, and at this point it was dry spaghetti. We didn't put any sauce on it yet, I don't think. So we decided to pull some spaghetti up and throw it against the window to see if it would stick. So pulled one up, threw it, and it stuck. And so from there we started throwing more and more, and we started even making like shapes on the window and things like that. It was so fun. But we heard our parents coming back in, so we started freaking out. We tried to take as many of them down. And I don't know for sure if we actually got all of the spaghetti off the window, but we were definitely in trouble because I'm pretty sure we still looked pretty guilty. So that was a time in my life when I needed some mercy. But not everything I did was that innocent. I remember it was my sophomore year in high school. And this was the year when everyone, for us, we get our driver's license and we get our car. And my car was like a 20-year-old Honda Accord, whatever. It made screeches when I braked. When I would turn, it would go, boom, 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 boom. Not the best car, but I didn't care. When I had that car, I had the power. I could go anywhere I wanted to at any time. But that kind of power in the hands of a hooligan like me, not so good. I remember one day we decided, a couple of buddies of mine, that we were going to go take the car and go and drive over to Walmart. And, so we did that after school. We pulled up, got a cart, started walking in, and, we just went from aisle to aisle to aisle, just picking out kind of whatever we really wanted. And once we were done getting anything we wanted from the store, we tried to just walk on out of there like no big deal without paying for that merchandise. And I remember as soon as we hit that line, 2 police officers storm us as we tried to leave the store without paying for their merchandise. And I remember at that moment my heart dropped. And I remember after that them taking us to the back room, questioning us, getting our information, and calling our parents. And I remember sitting in that back room, not knowing what was going to happen next, not knowing what was really going on. It was all happening so fast. Just waiting and waiting, and for what seemed like forever. And finally, 2 cop cars pulled up, and we were escorted into them. And as much as I tried to convince myself it wasn't getting real, and as much as I try to convince myself that this wasn't real, it kept getting more and more real. As my hands were behind my back on that hard plastic seat with those uncomfortable metal handcuffs, as we drove off from the Walmart, pulled up to the detention center. We were escorted inside, and our fingerprints were taken, as our pictures were taken, our mugshots, and as that door closed to my single cell, I was alone, and I had messed up. And at this point, all I could think of was how badly I messed up to my parents, how pissed off my dad was going to be, how sad my mom was going to be. So, we were there the whole night, but I couldn't sleep. This just kept running through my head. What was going to happen next? How big trouble, how bad I messed up. And as morning came, that door clicked as it was time to go. So I got my stuff, picked it up, and I started walking toward the door. But as I walked toward the door, I was hesitant because I knew what was on the other side of that door. And I was afraid. I didn't want to go on the other side of that door because I knew I was about to just get smacked and made walk home. I was going to be grounded for life. But I open the door, I see my parents, and my heart just dropped again. So I slowly made my way over to them, just ready for the wrath to come. But once I made it there, they just embraced me and held me for a second. And it was cold outside, so my parents, they gave me their jacket. And after all that I had done, they still showed me this mercy and this forgiveness. After all that I had done that had messed up. And I remember on the way home, my mom asking me, "Why'd you do it?" And all I could think of and to say was, "I'm sorry. I'll pay for any expenses. I'll get 3 jobs, whatever. I'm sorry. I don't." And she just responded, "I don't know why you would do this when you had everything you needed. You just had to ask." Now, that is my definition of mercy. Because how many times, do we find ourselves in these situations where we feel like we've gone so far, we've done something so bad, we can't even ask for forgiveness. But if the love and mercy of God is just a smidgen of the love and mercy of my parents, then I can't imagine what God has in store for us, what mercy and forgiveness God has for us. And all we have to do is be truly sorry and ask for that forgiveness, right? See, these sins, when we fall short, when we mess up, we create our own prison, locked away from God's love, locked away from God's mercy. And in reality, all we have to do to get out is to be truly sorry and ask for that forgiveness. And we'll find God waiting on the other end, ready to embrace us, ready to give us a hug, ready to give us that jacket, so to speak. With that being said, I want to share with you a song. The idea of this song is, it's called Teach Me How to Love. And sometimes when we get so caught up in whatever we're doing, maybe even in this quarantine, at least for me and from what I've heard, it becomes so rote. We do this over and over and over. At the beginning, it might have been like, yeah, I can do this. I'm going to help out as many people as I can, And, as time has gone by, I've heard, and I feel this same sense of spirit going around that it's getting harder, and it's like, when is the end going to come? When are we going to get back to some sense of normal? And we forget oftentimes that our purpose is to love no matter what conditions. So this song is kind of a prayer and a cry out to teach me how to love in the times when maybe I forget. my all. I don't wanna lose my soul. I could gain the whole wide world and forget my only purpose. Teach me how to love, 'cause I don't know enough. I don't wanna gain it all and lose my soul. Harder that I try, it seems, the more I lose control. Tell me why I want it so bad, I can't let it go. Maybe I just need some time to try to find my home. I've been roaming far from home, and all I know is you won't let me down. Come and free me, come and free my soul. If I'm giving it my all, I don't wanna lose my soul. I could gain the whole wide world and forget my only purpose. Teach me how to love, teach me how to love, teach me how to love. 'Cause I don't know enough, I don't know enough, I don't know enough. Teach me how to love for the times when we forget who we are, what we were made to do, who we were made to be. See, we were created by God, who is love, to be loved and to love all of creation, to love one another. And we see that in the Bible. We see that beginning in the book of Genesis, where God created this, God created that, this and that, and it was good. It was good. It was so, so good. And God created humanity, and it was so, so good. So we are, by our very nature, by our essence, good. But we fall short, and we see that in the book of Genesis, where Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, and they had everything they could have ever wanted, everything they could have ever needed, but they fell short in this one particular instance in the Garden of Eden, right? Even though they had everything, they were tempted to think that they could be God, so they wanted to try it out, right? So they eat this fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, and things go down from there. And that's where we get this idea, this doctrine of original sin. And from there we see all throughout the Old Testament, great people, but they continue to fall short. And we see it today, incredible, beautiful people, good people, but we fall short. You know, we're not perfect, and we sin. So I want to tell you a story that's very similar to the creation story of Adam and Eve, but it talks a little bit more about mercy and God's love and God's loving embrace when we do fall short. So if you've ever heard of the passage, the prodigal son, I would like to offer an interpretation, a modern interpretation of the prodigal son, okay? So to set the stage, we have a beautiful, beautiful family. They've done pretty well for themselves. Their parents are, the mother's, she's a doctor. She was able to make a lot of money for the family, and they have a lot of life savings. So when the mother passes on, their children are going to be pretty well set because they've got this inheritance coming their way. So there's two children. There's what we're going to call the prodigal son, and then we're going to call the faithful daughter, okay? Two children. The prodigal son knows that, his family is pretty well off, and, he knows he's got this inheritance coming, right? But he's already got everything he needs and everything he wants. But much like the Adam and Eve story, like Adam and Eve, they had everything they wanted. The prodigal son wants more. So he goes and asks his mom, "Hey mom, look, I know you've got this inheritance, so I was just wondering if if I can go and kind of take that money and just go have fun and do some stuff. So she absolutely loves, and she doesn't want to control her son. So she gives him the money. So the son takes the money and he goes to, if you've ever heard of it, a city called Las Vegas. So he goes to Las Vegas and he's using all this money. He's gambling. He's buying all kinds of Gucci belts and Prada and all that, whatever, expensive stuff. And then he loses all the money. And he has no way of making any money. And at that particular time, let's just say there was an economic crisis, a recession or a depression or whatever, and it was incredibly hard to find work. Maybe kind of like it is now, because everything is shut down. And he just spent all his money, so he has no way of making any more money, no way of even figuring out how he's going to survive. And then he's just chilling there, and he's thinking, how am I going to survive? So he starts begging, he starts asking people for money on the street corner, doing whatever he can, but to no prevail. So he's sitting there thinking, what am I doing out here starving and begging and asking for money when I could be at home where I had everything I ever needed and everything I ever wanted and the love of family? So he goes back home. He starts making his way back home, but he's a little bit scared because he took all this money, he kind of squandered it, and he feels a little bit guilty. He feels like he's done something horribly awful. When he gets home, he notices his mother was on the mountaintop trying to see and trying to look for him to when he would be coming back home. And when she sees him, they both run towards each other and embrace each other, and they give each other a big old hug, and then she invites him back inside to the house, and they have a huge party, and everyone's having a great time, and he's welcomed back, even though he made some shortfallings, he messed up earlier, but they have a great time. But meanwhile, while all of this is happening, the faithful daughter, who was there the whole time, never messed up, never did anything wrong, was out there outside working and everything, even helping the mother contribute to the work. She sees what's going on inside of the party, and she's pissed off. So she walks up to the door and she calls the mom out. She doesn't go inside because she's not going to partake in that, but she calls the mom outside and she's like, Mom, what's going on here? Why are you having this party for my brother when he messed up, but I've been here so faithful to you? You've never even given me a party. Mother responds with love to the daughter and saying, Daughter, you know I absolutely love you. I absolutely love each and every one of my children, but your brother was out there lost, wandering, not knowing where he was going to go, and he forgot who he was. But your brother just came back, and we're embracing him, we're loving him, because that's what we do, and that's what mercy is. And that is my modern interpretation of the prodigal son. Because how many times, do we even go so far, like I said before, and we feel like we can't come back, we can't be forgiven. But when we realize that God is always waiting on the top of that hill, ready to run towards us and embrace us when we come back, embrace us back into that open relationship. Because, we're all human and we all mess up from time to time. And when I say time to time, I really mean like every second on the second. And God's just patiently chilling up in heaven like, hey, look, kid, you kind of messed up here, but I still love you. And I always will. And yes, it's very true. God has a horrible Northeastern United States accent, or Italian accent, or whatever that is. But yes, God's always there, ready to open arms, hug us, whenever we're ready to let ourselves go from that prison that locks us away from that full, true paradise of a relationship with God. Now, what does this look like in a practical sense in the Catholic Church? Well, when we look at the sacraments, we look at confession, reconciliation, right? And I know right now we might not be allowed to. We might not be able to go to the sacrament of reconciliation, the sacrament of confession. And one of the things that I love about what Pope Francis said is, in this time, a lot of people are grieving because they can't do that. But Pope Francis says, talk to God, talk to our loving Father up in heaven. God listens and God hears you when you confess your sins. So we can do that at this moment. And then we can also, once things start opening back up, once we get to some new sense of normal, we can go to confession with a priest. And I know, sometimes that might feel super awkward, super weird, telling this dude like all the things that you've done wrong, thinking, oh, he's going to judge me, he's going to tell everyone else. But when we realize that the priest is there just to be a mediator between you and God, it takes a huge load off of our shoulders, right? And again, Pope Francis said, one of the things that he said when he first came into the papacy was, I'm just a sinner looked upon by the face of mercy. And he goes to confession and everything like that. And if he's the big boss dog of the church, Pope Diddy Dog Master Flex, and he needs confession and he needs forgiveness and he needs reconciliation, then I think that says something. See, nobody's ever too good for mercy, forgiveness, but also nobody's ever too far away from forgiveness and mercy and reconciliation. So I want to thank you for having me, and I want to just challenge you to continue to reach out to God, to continue to reflect on maybe the ways that we could be better, maybe in the ways that we might be falling short, and how can we ask God to lead us in mercy to who we were made to be, to lead us to live into the love that we were created to act out on more and more every day. All right. Thank you. Take care. Peace. God bless.